Welcome to Light Haven, the podcast for all things spiritual, mystical, and energetic. My name is Ruth, mystery student towards the awakening of consciousness.
And my name is Bianca, light worker and astrology enthusiast.
The title of this episode is More Than a Daily Grind, Meaning and Mastery. We're exploring the question, what are the underlying ingredients that make up a good life? You will see a raft of people out there experiencing a broad spectrum of levels of being. Some thrive and others struggle. This has been the subject of interest for centuries, and I think will continue to fascinate mankind in the years to come. What's the difference between eking out barely an existence and actually thriving, living a life of meaning? We're going to take a deep dive into the game of life and consider how we approach it, how the way we conduct ourselves relates to the results and consequences we experience.
We've been discussing a whole range of topics, and a lot of this content has to do with mindset and psychology. Even if it's spiritual, there's a component of all of this that relates heavily to our internal world, however you want to call it. I think it would be great for us to really discuss some practical elements for people to be able to achieve a meaningful life. Ruth, how would you define success?
That's a really important question.
Yeah.
So many people have these visions of becoming successful, and they race off chasing more finances. They only think about the financial aspect of it. So in my opinion, it's important to define success first, and then we know what we want to pursue.
Mm-hmm.
Because let's say that you did achieve financial wealth, but in the process, you have alienated everyone around you.
Yeah.
You have trampled on people to get there. You've not followed your values or your ethics, or you worked like a dog and sacrificed your health, and all the money that you've earned you're now using to go to the doctor. So what was it for? When I look at that kind of example, I think it's a no-brainer that it's a poor bargain to pursue financial wealth at all costs. I'm reminded of one doctor that I've visited not far from my house, and the nurse and the staff there know him quite well, so they told me different things about him, and I got to see his personality and go to his office every time you have a consultation and see the pictures on the wall. And just from going there over a period of time, I put together the full story about this doctor. So he has a measure of success. He has his own clinic, his own GP, his own practice, and a lot of patients. And he has a lot of side hustles as well. Like there's a $2 charge on the coffee machine. There's a way to pay for parking. He's selling water bottles there, and he's got flyers for housing agents that he's working with. So he can't help himself. Obviously, he wants to find every way to make a buck. And what I found out is that he had a wife and children, and he buried himself in his work and the success of his clinic. And he had a very good measure of success with patients of skin cancer. So his reputation got out there, and he had a lot of clients, and he became more and more focused on his work to where he would be working on the weekends. His practice is open on the weekend. And that's one of the reasons why I went there, because I don't get a break during the week. And he will be there on a Saturday, even though it's his own practice, and he could have just the nurse there or something. And what I found is that his family was alienated, and all he's left with now, being divorced, he has many, many properties and a lot of financial wealth, but the people that loved him are no longer in his life.
Yeah. It's really sad, isn't it, to see. It's like that was the cost of your so-called success, right? Was the money, the properties, all of that, but you have no one to share it with now. So how can that be like a good trade?
No. Usually you are striving for the people you love.
Exactly.
I don't see where the purpose is in it anymore. I mean, of course, he can derive a level of meaning from looking after his patients and curing them, but my gut tells me that wasn't his motivation.
Yeah.
He, of course, could feel good about it, but just by the $2 charge on the coffee machine and the paid bottles of water sitting on the receptionist's desk and all these other different ways to try and make money in what should be a doctor's practice tells me there's something going on with him and money, and obviously it was a poor trade. So one definition that I've heard of has a breakdown for success. Yes, we do need financial freedom and abundance, and it's not going after money at all costs. It's shifting into a way where we can have enough that we are not struggling, we are not impoverished, we have a level of mobility, we can move towards experiences that bring us joy, that enrich our lives. That does require some finances for that.
Yeah.
Let's say you wanted to go to a retreat, or you were going to meet a friend overseas. These are things that we require that abundance and financial freedom for. So it's not a wrong thing to have, but it's only part of success. Then we have health, and that's a no-brainer, because if you don't have your health, what is the rest of it for? Human connection, your family, your friends, and those are the people you're going to share your success with. If you watch a beautiful sunset and you can't turn to someone next to you and say, wow, look at that, it's a little bit empty. And deep meaning, which varies from person to person. So it could be spiritual, it could be based on a belief or a tradition. It could mean charity work or connecting through some kind of community, whether it's focused on gardening or a variety of interests. And under deep meaning, I would put contribution.
Yeah, like giving back.
Yeah, and I think people have to know that what they do makes a difference. Even if you were sweeping the street, that's making a difference if you knew that you were contributing and you could find meaning in that. Or it could be teaching a nephew how to play guitar. All kinds of ways that we contribute and add joy to people around us instead of only thinking about ourselves.
Exactly, yeah. I like that a lot.
Yeah, and interests, whether you're interested in reading or learning different topics, those things can add a lot. And as a side note to those four main categories, I would include values, because again, if you're a success, if you get those things, but you have sacrificed what's important to you, your dignity, things that are to do with character, then again, it's not worth it. The next thing I would add is confidence. And you could say confidence is what brings success, but even if you had some of those markers, let's say you have lots of people around you that you have meaningful relationships with, you have financial abundance, you have health. If you didn't have confidence, it would all be ruined because you would be living in this internal anxiety. Meanwhile, around you, you're surrounded with so many great things.
Yeah.
So I think if you don't have that strong feeling of being able to uphold yourself and enjoy and claim the good things around you, then it just puts a damper on it. And you could say that leads into or is part of the next one, which is a sound mind. So freedom from fear, not living in the land of overthinking and opinions, because that is a whole other world in itself.
Yeah, totally. And I definitely have a lot to say about that, the mindset piece of it. We'll get into that later, but yeah, I totally agree with that. Definitely having a sound mind and having the right mindset.
100%. Clarity and purpose is really important. Because if you just pursue the external, the material aspects of success, if you don't know why you're doing it, like I mentioned, you could be striving for the ones you love. Then you have a why. And the saying by Nietzsche goes, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." So knowing your why or your purpose, why it is that you're doing what you do, or the meaning that you assign to your daily activities, is crucial to you having an anchor and being able to stabilize yourself through ups and downs, but also feeling fulfilled in the things that you're doing as well. So it's about having that purpose, having something underlying that fuels you in what you do, and then strong supporting habits. Because if you are having those markers of success, but you're an alcoholic or you're binge eating, again, these are things that can detract from that thriving experience. And lastly, I would say having a plan is also part of success, because you wouldn't be able to get there without having a plan, having goals, and you can only make a plan if you know and are clear about what your values are. So once you've defined success for yourself and you have a good plan, that doesn't guarantee that it's all going to play out according to what you wrote.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to know, what do you do? How do you plan for your personal and professional life?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question, because for me, the starting point would be to name your goal and know what it is. And if you don't know what it is, to sit and think about it, because you don't want to be going through this life aimlessly. And I think once you know what your goal is and you've pondered on it and you feel good about it, then you can start hashing out a plan. And so you can plan to get to where it is you want to be. And that could be structured in a way that's very regimented, or it could be flexible. It's really up to you and personally how you work.
Maybe a bit of both.
Yeah, a bit of both. It's whatever it looks like to you. It's very individualistic. So I think everyone will have their own idea about what kind of life they want to have. And I just say go with what your heart wants, and not what someone else expects of you to want. And that's a big thing, because I know that there are some people that will go off to university, spend 4, 5, 6 years of their life, get an education, get a degree, get a doctorate, whatever, and then they come out of it fully qualified, but now having to do something that they thought they wanted to do, but it's not actually what their heart is telling them that they want to do. And it may have been something that they were pressured into because of, say, the parents may have said, oh, you need to go to university and you need to study this and you need to, bring the family honor, like
yeah, that's very classic.
All that, very. So when you name your goal, I think it is important to do what truly is your heart's desire, as opposed to what your parents or what your family or what your friends are saying you should do, because this is your life. Only you can walk in your shoes. And that's about it for that. I mean, there's nothing further that I want to add. It's pretty straightforward for me.
Right. Yeah. Having a goal is, it's said that having a goal is the thing that actually brings happiness. So there's one Brian Tracy quote that says, happiness is a step-by-step progression towards a goal. If you don't have a goal, you won't be happy.
Right.
And when you reach your goal, all you can do is set another one.
Right.
So it's very much that you, as humans, we look ahead and we have to see that future that's coming and be motivated by the vision, and then we go about crafting the vision, bringing it into reality.
Yeah.
And if we don't do that, it's like we're not in our element. We're not doing what we do best.
Yeah.
It's great to have a plan. I remember listening to a CEO on a podcast talking about how he achieved his success and his reflections around goals in professional and personal life. And after so many years of the daily grind, when he looked back, he said, in his opinion, that having a goal in your professional life is absolutely vital, and in the business world as well. But he said being too regimented around your personal life, his reflection was to be careful there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
We can get overly focused on our plans to the point where our lives fall out of balance, and that's where we miss those markers I was talking about. We forget that the reason we are doing these things, taking these actions, is because we have a dream or something in the future that we hope to get to, but we can't forget the present.
Mm-hmm. Because we're here now.
That's right.
That's what matters the most.
Yes.
It doesn't mean we have to disregard what we want for the future, but yeah, today is today. Tomorrow is for tomorrow.
That's right. Well, tomorrow,
Yeah.
Some people take it so far as to say tomorrow only exists in your mind, right? Because we only have now.
Exactly, yeah.
So by that logic, if you were always thinking about, well, I'll be happy when I get the second property, or I'll be happy when I get the first property, or I'll be happy when I get married, or when I get divorced, whatever that future event that you're imagining is, it's in the future. So we just have to be careful not to get too hung up on it and forget about the present. So it's having that balance, protecting our health. Also, I think planning can be something that can help around that, because I'm very ambitious, and usually it takes me a little while before I realize that I've bitten off more than I can chew. So if it's the beginning of the year,
overzealous sometimes.
yes, that's right. I'll write down, okay, I want to do all these things, and it's too many. It's like ADHD. I need to narrow it down, but I'll say, but I want to do that and that and that. And I'll say, okay, on Monday, I just need to wake up earlier, and then I can do this thing. And then Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, and I pack out this huge schedule. I write it all up, but then in actuality, I can't do it.
Yeah.
And then I feel bad that I couldn't do the thing that I wrote that wasn't realistic. So the routine that can help around that is weekly planning. Because when you sit down to plan your coming week, you review how the thing you planned for last week went. You review your goals, how they slot into the big plan. So you might have a 5-year goal, and under that you have some milestones every year. These are the things that are going to lead up to that. And then under that you have your monthly actions, and under that you have weekly actions. But you still have to every week sit down and review it and go, well, how did it go? Is this realistic? Like we do karate. And if I said, I want to be a black belt in 5 years, knowing my pace, I know that's not realistic, because I get really sore muscles, and I'm going to acupuncture, trying to fix it. We could have gone today, but my muscles are so sore just from walking, from not doing anything, that when we have to sit in a squat position and punch, I feel like I'm the only one that's really suffering, because I should be able to hold that position by now. So I have to be realistic, and I have to reflect and go, okay, I'm actually not going to put a time on that one. I'm just going to go to the lessons. So my plan is Monday and Tuesday, we're going to karate. When I get the black belt, I'm not going to worry about that, because that sits into the plan as an experience rather than an achievement. And the last thing on balance I would add is you need a wellness practice.
Yeah, I agree on that. Definitely a wellness practice, meditation and stuff like that.
Yeah, yoga, going for walks.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to
be in nature.
Break your back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's actually, you raised such a good point with the need for balance. There's this theory called excess potential. Have you heard of it?
I've never heard of that.
Okay.
I love a good theory. Tell me.
Okay. So, excess theory, it's based on this notion that energetically everything in this universe is striving towards balance. So, and when I start explaining this, it might ring some bells for you. You might be like, oh yeah, this is familiar. Yeah. Or like, you just might know it. It might just be known as something else for you.
Different language.
Yeah, different language, but same underlying principle. So where there's excess potential, where it appears, the balancing forces seek to eliminate it because there must be balance.
That's right.
So this excess potential is created by mental energy where too much importance is given to one thing, basically. So for example, I'll compare two situations. So just imagine I'm standing at the top of a high-rise building versus me standing in the kitchen of my house. There's cause for me to be concerned for my life when I'm at the top of this high-rise building. You know, one small misstep could be fatal. Whereas me in my house, I feel safe. I feel I'm fine. So energetically, the mind doesn't see the difference in where I am, like me on a high-rise building or me in my kitchen. It just knows that I'm standing somewhere. Therefore, it sees both situations as equal significance. We create the excess potential when our fear intensifies and creates what is referred to as inhomogeneity, or like in other words, non-uniformity in your energy field. So balanced forces appear to neutralize the excess potential, and that is the inexplicable forcing urge that urge for you to step away from the ledge. That's the balancing force,
right.
The neutralizing force as a result of this excess potential that's been formed. So you know how we live in a world of duality. And you described it beautifully in the previous episode on reincarnation, where we came to this earth and there was this idea of us creating in the light and darkness. Okay. My understanding is that in a world of duality, on an energetic level, every material thing is equally significant in its own right. Darkness has a right to be there just as much as the light. Now, I'm not going to go into vibrational frequencies because that is something different. I'm just purely speaking on a significant point of view. So universally, all things are of equal significance. And it is us who label things and attribute things to either being good, bad, happy, difficult, complicated, pleasant, not pleasant. Now, go back to my example. Let's label the situation of me standing on top of that high-rise building as, say, being dangerous versus me standing in the kitchen as being safe. This doesn't create inhomogeneity in my energy field. That labeling alone does not do that. I can recognize my situation on the top of a building as being dangerous for me, but not be fazed by it. right? It doesn't bother me. Therefore, the balance is not disturbed. Therefore, there is no excess potential. The excess potential only occurs when I place excessive importance on the dangerous situation that I'm in. And it is our biased belief, that belief of being unsafe and therefore having a certain feeling arise. It's that biased belief that distorts our reality, and depending on how much importance we give it will determine how much of our thought energy gets directed to it. Now, just I know I'm going off this is a long-winded explanation, but I feel like I need to really explain it,
Give it justice. Yeah.
So tying this into our theme topic around mastery, success, if we do not create balance on an energetic level, for example, home life balance, creative pursuits, social endeavors, and if we prioritize the value of work, then you create that strong excess potential, and everything in nature strives towards an equilibrium. Therefore, forces outside of your will come into play to create balance and harmony again. For example, you may get sick and be forced to take time off work to recover.
How many times has that happened?
I think we can all relate to that.
Yes,
You run yourself to the ground with work, and then forces outside of yourself, you get sick, and you're like, no.
And all the catching up is gone.
Yeah. So that's the balancing force coming into play, because you've generated this excess potential there that needs to be rebalanced. So yeah, being sick, being forced to take time off work to recover, that was a call to slow down and take time out to care for yourself. You can create less problems for yourself when you reduce the expectation you put on yourself and approach your goals with a relaxed attitude. So when you're in a state of balance and harmony, your world will feel like it's flowing more effortlessly for you, trying to be, I think it's better to try and be the objective observer rather than the participant, if that makes sense. But yeah, that was my tangent on excess potential.
Very interesting. There's a lot of things that I was thinking about when you were saying that, how you mentioned that we need to be in a state of equilibrium, and in Buddhism they call it equanimity. So there is other language for the exact
definitely
same
another
thing.
language, yeah.
And that imbalance is called craving and aversion.
See, is this a universal principle, right? Just words.
Yeah,
just
different cultures
vocabulary,
and
yeah.
Yeah, but I definitely agree with that our suffering and our difficulty arises from that being very, very overly zealous to the point where we're knocking the elements and aspects of our life out of balance. It's all fine and well to talk about achieving, setting goals, striking a balance to make sure we get there in one piece. But is there something deeper from an internal perspective to consider? People often miss this piece. There's usually a deep internal component to making things happen.
Yeah, like what I mentioned about that excess potential and what did you say? Equanimity? Is that
Yes.
Yeah. I'm thinking about this mindset type of way of being, right? To get your mindset right. And when I think about it, one of the things that really stood out to me that made a difference in my life was to assess or realign the people that I spend time with. And so I think aligning yourself with the right people can set you up to be on the path that you need to be on, the pathway, I don't know, to a fulfilling life, let's say.
Of course, because there's an influence.
Exactly.
Of the people around you.
Yeah. And on an energetic level, what happens when we align ourselves with a group of people, like-minded people who think the same way? It's like their energy unites together and forms this independent energy structure called a pendulum. And I feel like this is just a language thing here. I'm sure that there's other ideologies that speak about pendulums, but in a different way. And it's referred to as an energetic pendulum because the more people that feed into this energy, the more powerful it becomes. And the opposite applies as well. The less energy people put into it, meaning the less participants there are, then the pendulum ceased to exist. And we see this throughout history in trends that used to be fashionable and then fell out of fashion because now no one's doing them anymore. And on the different side of the spectrum, it's not just human form that we see these pendulums. It's every living organism that radiates energy can form part of a pendulum. For example, we see it in herds of animals, schools of fish, rainforests even, bacterial colonies. And now you might be thinking, okay, great. Well, the pros to being part of a energy structure like this is that you find your place within a community. There's a sense of belonging and security. The bad thing about it, though, is that people can devote their time and energy to a cause that doesn't fulfill them, or that doesn't fit their purpose in life. So I think the key takeaway just from what I've mentioned is that the most important thing to recognize is what you stand to gain from this energetic interaction. And we cannot escape the entire human environment is built on pendulums. We're unable to escape them entirely. So it's all about learning how to work with them to your advantage. So if you're aligning yourself with the right people, and they're building you up and you guys are sharing in this unspoken energy, it motivates you. You feel like you belong. You feel like you have this energy to go about and conquer whatever it is you want to conquer, and you lift each other up, and you have that going for you, because as humans I feel like we do thrive on this need for human interaction and the sense of finding your place in the world, whether that's in your community or in your small group of friends or in your work organization. These are all pendulums. Now, another thing that I have seen in myself and I've seen in others around me is seeing this, how do I say this? The falling into certain cycles that you repeat over and over again, finding yourself in negative situations and not knowing how to get out of it.
How to break the cycle.
Yeah, how to break the cycle. First of all, it takes recognizing that there is a pattern. And then once you recognize that there's this pattern, then how do I get out of it now? And that mentality of like, oh, it's everyone else but me. It's everyone else's fault.
Victim mentality.
Yeah, that's not going to help you in your situation. So I really feel like it's important to share some things around maybe what to do to get out of it, how to try and break the cycle. The first thing is, well, I mentioned observe and and recognize the situation that you find yourself in over and over again. And then second of all, acceptance, and place no judgment, and don't harbor any feelings of resentment or guilt or anger. This will only fuel the situation and make it worse. So with acceptance means to accept that it exists, that the problem or the cycle exists, and then continue on your way completely indifferent to it. And if it's not easy to just walk away, or if you still are thinking, great, like, how do I become indifferent? Or so what? I can accept that I've made some mistakes, and I've got some habits that I need to get out of, whatever, or I'm in a toxic relationship, or I'm in a workplace that I don't feel supported, and it's you're thinking of all these things, and you're like, great, well, how do I get myself out? And there's this technique that I have used in my life, and it's a very subtle one. And if walking away is not an option, like, you can't just walk away from your boss who's demanding you do these things, sometimes walking away is definitely not something you can do. So you have to deal with the situation head on, right? So this little technique, it might sound a little bit strange, so just bear with me. Now, if someone is getting on your nerves or making unreasonable requests, in your mind, you think about what it is they could be missing, or what it is they need in their life right now, whether that's time off, or a little bit of love, maybe support, or maybe less responsibility, less tasks to do. Maybe they need a boost of confidence. I don't know, just come to some kind of, start thinking visualization of what it is that they could be lacking in their life. Because what's happening in this moment is there is an energetic pendulum that started swaying because something energetically shifted it out of balance, and that is the equivalent of like an unhinged sibling. Mm-hmm. Or an unhinged boss.
Yeah.
They come to you with their demands, and that is like the pendulum coming to take your energy from you and pull you into this lower vibrational frequency that they're in, of anger, frustration, fear. So in that moment, you visualize an image of that person's fulfillment. You solve the problem in your mind on an energetic level. The boss may have been mad and he approached you, but in your visualizations, he's not mad. He's probably off somewhere on the beach, sipping on cocktails, and
or he's very happy with your work. He thinks you're the best.
All that. And what happened in that moment is that you did give the pendulum a little bit of what it was seeking, a little bit of your energy, but it was only a small amount compared to what it could have been if you had given into the game and gotten sucked into that whole interaction.
Drama.
Yeah. So what you'll find that will happen is the aggression and the anger, that is the energetic pull of that energetic pendulum. It will be replaced with goodwill instead. And so you've kind of switched it out for that kind of little bit of positivity because of your visualization. And the thing is that, yes, like, you're visualizing in your mind, and that's great, but the reality is, you've got your boss breathing down your neck saying, and giving you demands, or you've got your angry sibling that you still have to deal with. And so you go with the flow, you go with it, even though you've done your visualization, and not really don't harbor any feelings of anger or frustration towards them, because then that's equivalent to you just giving in to that and giving your energy away, and basically lowering your vibration to their level. So you continue with the visualization in your head, but you also go with their demands, and you do what they say, and try not to be affected by it. And I feel like you will see, and I've done this in the past, where over time, the more you do it, you will start to see the other side of it, where you've come out on top in a way. But it's so subtle that it takes you having to reflect on it and see the results. Like, you can't just be going about your life and scheduling and doing your achieving your goals and stuff. You have to really look back and say, oh, I remember this was really difficult for me, and I did this visualization and I went with the flow and I went with it, and I didn't harbor any resentment or anything, and now I have like a great working relationship with my boss, or I have a great, my siblings is happy with me and we have a good relationship. So that's like a good way of repairing or restoring or lifting up the energetic vibration and the energetic interactions that you're now finding yourself involved in.
You hear a lot of people say energy work, and no one knows what on earth it actually is. To me, this sounds like energy work. You're working on a subtle level. For people who don't believe in this stuff, I would argue that, well, there's a component of the exercise that works on your subconscious, that works with your psychology. And by having these micro shifts in your internal world.
That's exactly what it is. It's a micro shift. It's very subtle, but it's very intentional.
Yeah, you're doing it on purpose.
Exactly.
And then it's going to change those gross outward actions that are more cumbersome, more direct, because your internal psychology has shifted.
Yeah.
So I can see how that would be something that if you didn't believe in energy, you could still give it a go and see what basically a positive mindset, how it can help you in these times of struggle. And you, by taking the higher road, might just be able to bring someone up to your level instead of stooping down to theirs.
Yeah. This can relate to anyone, regardless of what you identify as, is like what religion you identify with. It doesn't matter what faith you belong to. This is just pure, straight, just energy and working with that within yourself. And you could see it however you want to see it, whether that's, you taking the high road all the time. But I do notice that some people, they can feel like they take the high road all the time and then be like, why do I have to be the one all the time?
They're not really, are they?
So now really they're just undoing all that work that they've, because it hasn't come from like a genuine place of acceptance that this is the life. It's not like, oh, I'm going to take the high road, for now, and then life will get easier later on and then I won't have to take the high road anymore. No, it is what life is, and there is no end.
Life is taking the high road again and again.
Exactly.
Yes, it boils back down to acceptance, doesn't it? The more you resist or create those imbalances you talked about, then the more you're going to be fighting against life. I recall having a conversation with someone who was doing some very high-level human performance training and came to the topic of resistance and just was resisting the lesson about resistance and just saying, but no, like, that means I'm going to be a pushover. And I was going, well, that's not the concept.
That's the ego now.
Yeah,
like
it doesn't
saying,
mean you'll be a pushover. It's a different thing. Don't be a pushover. But there are some situations where saying whether you're a pushover or not is neither here nor there, like your boss breathing down your neck. You don't get to say no. So the resistance you create is going to just fuel a lot of internal discomfort and is probably going to make your boss worse towards you. Yeah.
And so when I said earlier that I've experienced this in my life and how it works, it wasn't a one-time thing. It was doing this over and over again with the same person.
I was going to ask if it was the same person.
It was the same person. And it wasn't, and this was before I realized that this was a thing. I don't know, for some reason I was just trying to search for ways that I could better my working relationship. It was someone at work that I struggled with, and And so it took, I want to say, 10 months of just sticking it out and it wasn't tense. No, it wasn't ever tense, but it was a difficult situation for me. I don't know how else to describe it, but I did this without knowing that it was a thing. Like I didn't read a book and be like, oh, this is what I'm going to do. It just
you were doing it naturally.
Kind of happened naturally. But what I did extra on top of this was tried to find meaning beneath what was going on. So I was experiencing a lot of demanding expectations put on me. And we were all stressed out. So when you're all under a lot of pressure to perform, suddenly everyone's at each other's necks, right? And I just remember feeling after the receiving the demands from this particular person, thinking, this person must be very stressed right now, and this person must be, I was seeking understanding.
Trying to understand them.
Yeah, and I was like, this person must be having a very stressful personal life on top of this added stress at work. So I was trying to find that understanding and that meaning. And then it led me to think, because I don't know this person's struggles, then I'm just going to imagine this person happy.
That's actually a Buddhist practice.
I laugh and I shouldn't laugh, but it's just like, when I say it out loud, it sounds kind of crazy. Like wouldn't you want to just like strangle this person, like the way that they treat you? And it's just like, no, I just want to see this person happy, because if I'm seeing this person happy in my mind, then maybe that's going to give me some peace of mind and be able to move on and take whatever the demands are, take it on the chin and just be like, all right, this is the situation. I'm going to go ahead and do what I need to do to make it right in the eyes of the team and whatever, even though maybe it's a struggle for me. So now we have a really good friendship, a very good working relationship, and it's all cupcakes and rainbows and hugs and kisses now. So
that's great. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's really good.
Nice work.
It's really good.
And the situation that you described, from the sounds of it, either way, it's got to happen. Mm-hmm. That work needs to be done.
Yeah.
It's coming to you. So you could have done it sulking, or you could have found a way to work with your internal dimension to approach it in a way that facilitates your growth and understanding and being able to respond in a way that gives you peace and happiness.
Yes, because it was the most difficult situation that I've been in, and I wanted to leave. I was thinking, I just want to leave this company. I don't want to work here anymore. But the thing that kept me back, besides trying to work on this on an energetic level, this tense relationship, besides all of that, I was like, regardless of what happens, if I leave, I haven't solved the problem, because I'm going to find myself in another situation in the future, and how am I going to deal with it then? So I may as well deal with it now and try and repair and reconstruct and rebuild, or whatever, make sure that the lines of communication are all good, and make sure the relationship is established and strong, and then after that, how will I feel? Will I want to move and find another job? Maybe, but I'm at that point where I'm like, no, actually, I'm happy, So, yeah.
Running away is not the answer.
It really isn't.
Your lesson will come back.
Yeah. So you face the lesson head on, you deal with it on a subtle micro level, and just see. I would say test yourself. Be like, okay, what do you have to lose? Because clearly the old ways weren't serving you. What do you have to lose? Basically, like, really, you think about it.
By working, having a way to work with your mind, so that you have a way to approach these kinds of challenges. And it could look different for different people. You know, different people could use different approaches, but I want to try that. I'll try anything.
Yeah. You'll find that you probably already do this somewhat on a certain level.
The Buddhist practice that I said, well, it's the same thing, is what they do. Remember the meditation I told you about called metta, which is loving kindness meditation, and you imagine a glowing ball of love or compassion, and you're sending it out to people, and you surround yourself in it. So first you learn to sit in that yourself, and that was a place that I was able to go to when I had difficulty. And then you try and make that glowing ball bigger and send it out to the whole world. They say that if you are facing someone who's harboring those negative emotions, you should beam that glow at them.
Yeah.
So it's not something silly or unique to one theory. It's in another part of the world, another tradition, they do the same thing. So it's that working with your internal world. And I found in a very, very challenging confrontation where someone was quite intense towards me, that it allowed me to accept the situation and not react.
Yes.
By beaming, they didn't know what I was doing. I was beaming loving kindness and compassion upon them, and that not only shielded me, but it was able to help the situation to settle.
Yeah. I had the similar situation, but I don't do that, you know, that
the glowing
the
ball
glowing
of love.
Ball.
It's just different language.
But I love that. And I might just do that from now on. But but when it was one time, it was late last year, and I had a really difficult broker come to me, and I called him because I needed something from him. I was seeking clarification and additional information. And I called him one morning, and I was like, hi, it's Bianca from blah, 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 blah. And so I'm just calling to ask you and just to clarify a few details. And he just disregarded everything that I just said. And he said something, he was very
aggressive.
Very aggressive, yeah. And it took me off guard. I was surprised. I was like, because I wasn't expecting that. And he was like, well, I sent you financials two weeks ago, and you haven't even come back to me. And
he was already worked up from the get-go.
And I was like, oh my gosh. And then I was like, well, you know what? I'm actually working on them, and just wanted to double check to clarify some other details on this other account. And then he's like, oh, and then I don't know how it ended, but I just remember he hung up the phone on me, and I just sat there like bewildered, like what just happened? It was almost like I was in this positive mindset, and I was doing my job, being all nice, and it just felt very genuine. And then to have it all like thrown back in my face, but I didn't recognize it as that. I was just so like, it was like his negative energy wasn't really penetrating me.
It just couldn't come through.
It didn't. It was more like more of a confused like,
oh,
what
what's
just
that
happened?
over there? He's in a bubble of negativity, but that's all the way over there.
Yeah. And then you know what happened 10 minutes later? I get an email from him, and he was like, hi Bianca, I'm so sorry about the way I spoke to you on the phone. Here's information that you were wanting. It's just been very stressful for me lately. And he just, and I was just like, hey, it's absolutely fine. We all have our moments. I was completely like, that's fine. It didn't faze me. It was just, it was more of a confused state than anything else. So when he sent that apology, it wasn't necessary, but it was very lovely to receive. So
probably made him feel better too.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Now, just there was one other part to that where I was saying we went into aligning with the right people, and now we've pretty much gone on this well, it's not a tangent because this was something that I wanted to talk about, but the second part of this is the importance of aligning your daily actions, your thoughts, and your beliefs. Now, you're always going to be in alignment with whatever it is that you're manifesting in your life. So you'll always be on this lifeline that best matches your energetic vibration. It just may not be producing the results that you want. And you might think, but I'm not manifesting anything. I'm not actively manifesting. It's like, but it's something that's just happening without your consent. It's just happening.
Well, you're doing it by
whether
being on that vibrational frequency.
Yeah, whether you are conscious of it or not, it's still happening. So when people say, oh, I'm just out of alignment, it's like, no, you are in alignment, but you're in alignment with something that you do not want. So, yeah. So being in alignment with your daily actions, your thoughts, and your beliefs means that you are to try and eliminate the things that are not serving you, those beliefs that are not serving you, those self-criticizing thoughts. And I would say not to try and avoid, I would say more of ignoring maybe these self-criticizing thoughts as opposed to trying to avoid feeling this way, because you can't, to some extent, you can't really, it's a form of rejection if you say, I'm gonna avoid being hard on myself or feeling like a failure. Like, I feel like more just ignoring those voices when they come up. So it's like you're being indifferent to those voices in your head, the critic in your mind.
Not latching onto it.
Pardon?
Not latching onto it.
Exactly. And not giving it meaning or significance. And I would say just program yourself to think positive thoughts. Think about what it is you want to achieve, how you want to achieve it. We will end up getting that which our thoughts are most attached to. So we need to continually feed this enthusiasm to succeed and give your attention to that which is pleasing and encouraging, and look for the good in everything. Observe how life is moving in a positive way and try to hold on to the happiness these thoughts bring. If we get into the habit of seeing the good in everything, it will put us in a state of peace and calmness. And I think this is probably recognized as the law of perpetual transmutation of energy. Does that ring a bell to you? The law states that energetically the universe is constantly evolving, and we feel it when we're around negative people. When we feel ourselves
Are they devolving?
Devolving. It's more like, so we feel like we're being brought down when we're around negative people, and we're being pulled into a similar state as them, and vice versa. When we're around positive people, you feel uplifted. And knowing this law of what, being pulled down into a lower vibration or being uplifted into a higher vibration of positivity, knowing this, we can maintain positive thoughts to bring about the vibrational frequency up, to bring it up and outshine those negative thoughts.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That's why there are practices like affirmations
Yes.
and chanting and mirror work and
Exactly.
emotional freedom technique and all those things. They all work to unblock those barriers and create energetic shifts so we can access those higher states that are our right to access.
Yes. So, and that was pretty much all that I really wanted to touch on that. So,
Well, a lot of this guidance points towards how we can have abundance, like you talked about people and circumstances and how we deal with those. And we've also talked about, well, we mentioned finances, but I think abundance is such a big topic. It could almost be another whole conversation piece.
It would be another episode.
Yeah,
for sure.
exactly. I just had a few thoughts on abundance that I came across recently. I've been reading this book. I'm not finished it yet. It's called Abundance by Deepak Chopra. And a lot of the content will be things maybe you've heard before, but I love that it's organized all into one place, so I can do a deep dive into how I sit with abundance. I've been working with all kinds of psychological tools since I was 19, and I have to say they work. They really work. I've seen so much growth that came about by using them. So I'm really excited to be looking at these again. And I have a few different highlights from what I've looked at so far. The first one is, it's an old idea, but I'm just hearing it again. Brian Tracy was talking about it years ago. Ralph Waldo Emerson wrote an essay called Compensation. And he said that each person is compensated according to their contribution. So what Brian Tracy, the concept that he was training and pushing was, you don't earn more because you want to. You earn more because you are in the business of providing a service, providing a solution, giving something good to society. And those funds are society's appreciation of what you gave out. So if you just looked at the money and you said, I want to earn an extra 10,000 this year, you will get nowhere. And the reason why is because you're barking up the wrong tree. The money is neither here nor there. If you are chasing after money, you might be able to get it through means that don't align with your values. But if you're trying to go down the right path, the thing you should be looking at and the question you should be asking yourself after you've figured out what line of business you want to be in is, how do I increase the value of my service? And it's all fine and well to have a goal, a financial goal, but when you look at the how of how to get that, you are able to pursue that goal by increasing the value you provide, not by just asking for more money and see what your boss will say.
Right.
Because I was confident and I asked him, he's going to say, well, what did you do extra?
Increase your value. Yeah. Well, increase the value of your service.
That's right. The other concept that I resonated with was what Chopra calls financial karma. And it's the same thing that we're talking about how your outward world is a reflection of your inward world. So when you want to change what you're seeing on the outside, stop looking at what's outside and thinking you can go at those phenomena around you. Instead, you need to approach it from your core, from your psychology. I recall a colleague I'm thinking of who was working on going after a raise. Highly qualified person, very good at what they did, and deserved a raise. And so when I was kind of looking at what they were going to say and just having being a sounding board for them, I noticed an underlying belief of, I'll just ask for a little bit extra. And I called them out on it because it's easy to see when it's not you. When it's you, it's harder. So I thought that was why I was being a sounding board, was to say, hey, I think you're selling yourself short. And in this case, your value is so high compared to what you're being rewarded with. And the thing that's holding you back is you in your mind, because you were going to ask them for too little.
Yeah.
You don't even see your worth.
Yeah. I remember when I got a promotion internally, and I was grateful that they offered me, well, I thought they were going to ask me at the end of the interview, how much did I see myself? What
was your expectation?
Yeah, what was my expectation? But instead of them asking me, they said, so this is what we think your salary should be. And I nearly fell off my seat because I would not have asked for that much, really. So
a good thing you kept your mouth shut.
Exactly. So, it definitely has benefits. Some of us are very unaware of how much value we're actually bringing to a company. And it's important for us to see our worth, especially women too. I feel like
I was going to say we
hate to bring gender into it, but it's so true. Like I do feel that we undervalue ourselves so much more than men.
It's a cultural training that we've had, and we can get past it, which is what this conversation is about.
Exactly.
We can easily fall into that trap, but if you're going to be asking for a raise, these are things to think about and consider, and you can always run the scenario through your head beforehand, which is what they call visualization, and make sure that you're really comfortable with how it's going to go and keeping that in mind. So financial karma is the tagline for how your automatic and unconscious behaviors are having a hand in what you're actually experiencing in your daily life, because they're definitely connected. So Brian Tracy said, your world is a 360-degree mirror. Everywhere you look, there you are.
No, this reminds me of the boomerang theory. Have you ever heard of the boomerang?
I think so. When I was growing up, maybe at church, we talked about boomerangs, where what you put out comes back to you.
That's it. So it's this idea that the thoughts you put out is what comes back to you, and it takes me back to our meditation episode where we talked about how our minds are filled with clutter. And this is why meditation is so important. And if we aren't mindful of what we're thinking, negative thoughts can easily dominate. And this explains why people know exactly what they don't want, but often are not really sure on what they do want. And it's okay to know exactly what you don't want, but just don't dwell on it, right? Now, during those times where your mind is unoccupied, like try to program yourself to think positive thoughts and what you want to achieve. And it's not enough just to think of what you want and have that be the source of positivity. There needs to be acceptance and gratitude for the situation that you're currently in, and then shine a positive light on that and what you want. So, for example, this is an example of what is not going to get you what you want. And say you're a student and you don't like your teacher, and it's coming towards the end of the year, and you know you're going to be changing classrooms next year, new teacher, new class, and you say, I can't wait to get out of this crappy classroom and be in a better classroom next year. You're still expressing negativity and resentment towards your current classroom, and chances are that negativity will come back to you like a boomerang in the new class, because it may not be any better than the previous one.
The problem is you.
Yeah. So the answer is to show gratitude towards the current situation you're in, and this will put you in a different vibrational state and will yield you better results. And just in conclusion to that, if internally you are harboring negative thoughts, you will inevitably experience disappointment. It comes back to you like a boomerang. Others describe this as a mirror, I think. I like the boomerang idea. I thought this may have been likened to the law of attraction in a way.
Yeah. It's all the same thing, because the energy doesn't care about what you call it.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
You can call it a million things.
Yes.
That reminds me of recently I met a UK tech engineer who was traveling through, and he mentioned that his sister was really into the law of attraction and mindset, and he was a cynic, and he just thought it was the dumbest thing ever. And as he scoffed and shared this story with me, he was telling me that she's a high-performing CEO and she thinks it's because of her mindset,
right,
and that's just stupid. Meanwhile, she's a high performer and she's got all these achievements under her belt, and she's trying to tell her brother, this is how I did it, and he's laughing, saying that's not true, but she has the results to show for it.
Exactly.
I just thought that was funny. I didn't say anything, but I just thought to myself,
you just like...
Two and two together?
Yeah, and you just kind of chuckle at the irony of it all.
Yeah, usually we want to learn from successful people and ask them their secret, not dismiss what they have to say. So my key takeaways so far from this book are there's some do's and don'ts around how we want to achieve abundance. And the first thing is we do not want to be fantasizing. So saying, I wish I had a better car, I wish I had a better house, because then we're staying in the frame of mind that it's always something out of reach. And then we are programming our behaviors to support that kind of reality. The second one is obsession. So in our vigor and zeal towards setting goals and making plans, if we become a bit like a maniac and we become too, I guess that's the balance you talked about, how you create an energetic imbalance by clinging to an outcome too much. We should do the steps but not be attached to the outcome. And it will be what is meant for us at that time. But the obsession is definitely going to make it harder for us to get there. Having fear, so the fear mindset, fear of poverty, fear of running out of funds, that will be an energetic block for you. And self-betrayal. So if you are in an office where the people around you are always drinking, for example, and you have to drink with clients and you personally don't drink, but you go, well, to earn the money, I must, and you betray your own values.
Yeah, that's a big no-no. Yeah.
Exactly. You have to do what's right for you.
Exactly.
That's a cost you don't want to pay.
Yeah.
And the final thing not to do is stepping on other people. And I've seen this before where someone really wants to get ahead and they do it by trying to spread rumors about colleagues so that they will look bad in front of the boss, and then the one who spread the rumors is hoping they can be the chosen one. And that's never a good way forward.
Yeah.
The things to do are be self-sufficient, so not trying to step on people, but just getting there through your own efforts, being responsible. And when I say responsible, I don't mean pay your bills, though you should pay your bills. Responsible means not having a victim mindset. So realizing that it's not someone else's fault. Where you are today is the result of you. Never mind the hand that you were dealt. Well, we talked about karma and reincarnation, but where you are today comes from your past psychology, so you need to work with that. Having good work ethic, so if you are sitting around chatting to your colleagues all day and then you come and ask for a raise, what is the answer going to be?
Yeah.
Hard no.
Yeah, it goes hand in hand. Action, like I feel like goals and intentions require action. It's just a no-brainer. Yeah, you need to be putting yourself into doing things that you set out, because you're not going to get anywhere without it. So.
That's right. And creating win-win. So instead of trying to steal from opportunities from other people, looking to benefit those around you, that is truly how I think the universe rewards you. If you are making it a way of being that you always want to uplift and connect people, connect them to opportunities, well, the same thing is going to come around to you. Like if you go, oh, I have this piece of information that I know could help my colleague, but I'll just keep it to myself so I can improve my odds. That is going to come back to you for sure. And the last ones are being true to your values and consciousness, which is the awareness. So if you are in a humdrum and just on autopilot without bringing your consciousness to the situation, you won't see those improvements.
Oh, yeah, totally. It's like action with being driven by intention. So you're conscious in every decision, every action that you make. It all goes hand in hand together with the energy that you're putting into it as well. And yeah.
You know why you're doing it.
Yeah.
The way the book ends because I jumped to the end.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still going to finish the book, but sometimes I can't wait. I look at the end of the book.
Mm-hmm.
It ends with a message to find your passion, and then you'll be in what he calls your dharma, or your correct karma, the good energy flow, your life's purpose. And then the letting go is just lose yourself in the flow of love.
Yes.
You become part of something greater than yourself.
Yes. Yeah.
So on that note, I wanted to share a quote from a different book. It's by Glennon Doyle. The book is Untamed: Stop Pleasing, Start Living, a Toolkit for Modern Life. I am a human being, meant to be in perpetual becoming. My goal is not to remain the same, but to live in such a way that each day, year, moment, relationship, conversation, and crisis is the material I use to become a truer and more beautiful version of myself.
Wow, that's so beautiful. I just love that idea of finding your passion and losing yourself in the flow of love. When we have a good relationship with ourselves, we emit a harmonious energy into the world around us. So thank you for sharing. Well, I think we are drawing near to the end of our episode, and I think the title really spoke to me. More than a daily grind, meaning and mastery, because I felt like I feel like life's journey looks different to everyone, but there are some universal truths that I think we're all seeking, like how to find more meaning in life. Some people may not resonate with the word success necessarily, but I think us speaking of the quote-unquote underlying ingredients that make up a good life is what will speak to people. Now, we've discussed what success could mean to someone, but more importantly, the basic ingredients that make up a good life, i.e. personal values, confidence, mindset. We've discussed the importance of balance and the consequences if there is an imbalance. We've discussed aligning yourself with the right people, aligning your daily thoughts and actions, and importantly, just as importantly, the abundance mindset. Now, just a note to listeners, everything that I mentioned today came from the book Reality Transurfing by Vadim Zeeland. That's just if you guys were curious as to where this information came from. Success is not a destination, it's a way of being. You are working towards self-acceptance, crafting your own reality. And we will see you in 2 weeks for another episode on the Light Haven podcast. And remember, the path to your best reality is in your hands to create when you become conscious.